Welcome to this episode of the Successful Encore Career Podcast, a podcast of employment for seniors. This episode is being brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, Age Friendly Columbus and Franklin County, Thompson Hine, Rise Smart, and Circle 270 Media Podcast Consultants. I'm Brett Johnson, longtime volunteer with Employment for Seniors, and with me, as always, is Dr. Carol Ventresca, Employment for Seniors Executive Director.
How are you today, Brett?
Doing great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got another great program that we are going to be doing today, and it is the kickoff of a new series that we are going to provide on the Successful Encore Career Podcast, and it's basically, what's it like to work in? And we're going to keep changing that area. So today we're going to talk about what's it like to work in logistics. So with us today is Jill Kuhlman, a member of the Employment for Seniors Board of Trustees and Vice President of Talent and Employee Experience for FST Logistics here in Columbus. So Jill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself and a little bit more about FST as well as what you do there too.
Yeah, absolutely. So my experience has been predominantly in talent acquisition. I have about 15 plus years kind of across the range of hiring and filling open positions, anything from sales to call centers. And now the most recent, probably last 4 to 5 years, is in logistics. So FST Logistics, we've been around since 1991, and we are a food-based logistics company. So we have warehouses and we have trucks, and they are all temperature controlled. So what we do is we store food and grocery products in our warehouses. We put them on our trucks, and we make sure that they get to groceries and Targets and Walmarts on time so consumers can buy their products.
Okay. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Real quick to interrupt.
In description, though, but yeah, exactly. Yeah. Much more detailed than that. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the interesting things and probably unique things about FST is we're 100% employee owned. So we're an ESOP. So every employee that works at FST is an owner. So
wonderful.
It's a unique opportunity.
Yeah.
You've already brought up a key issue in logistics, and who would have thought when you say it's food-based? I never think about the fact that a logistics company likely is very focused on one particular area of movement of items. So that's great. So that's our first lesson for today. So now for another lesson. Oftentimes, our mature job seekers have a lot of problems identifying transferable skills. And that's really one of the important pieces of any job search. But I'm thinking in logistics, it's really critical because it is very different than what most folks have done. So again, Jill's starting us off with this new series of programs. We're going to talk about logistics and really understand what an individual needs to be a great applicant. So in exploring logistics, Jill, tell us a little bit about what it is. We could talk for hours about logistics overall, but give us a little bit more information about what makes a logistics company and what you're looking at.
Absolutely. So logistics is huge. And here in Columbus, it's actually a really huge part of the city and industry because we have Rickenbacker Airport. The other thing is Columbus is centrally located. It's typically about a day's drive to 70% of the major cities. So you see a lot of companies say, hey, I make this product, but I need to store it someplace that I can get to the consumer as quickly as possible. So you see a lot of warehouses popping up all over Columbus. That's a lot of what logistics does. And some companies choose to manage their own warehouses and logistics and transportation. So a company, Amazon, for instance, right? It's their own company. They have their own warehouses. Some companies will say, I'm great at building this widget, but I'm not great at supply chain or where to have my warehouse and how to get it from A to Z. And they will go to what most people will call a 3PL, a third-party logistics company. They'll go to those companies and say, you know what, we're not good at supply chain. That's your expertise. We're going to outsource it to you. That's similar to what FST does. We don't make food products. We store multiple different companies' food products, and we make sure it gets to the consumer or to the business on time, and it's the most accurate order. So that's a lot of what logistics does. Could talk about it forever. But if you think about Amazon, that's a huge player, and you hear all the time the Amazon effect, and it's another warehouse and another distribution center. And you'll hear warehouse and distribution center pretty much means the same thing. Logistics, supply chain, pretty much the same thing. So when you think about what kind of positions are open or transferable skills, it really runs the gamut. So we need people working within the warehouses that take the product off the truck, put it into the warehouse, store it in the warehouse, get it back on the truck to get to the consumer. We need people driving the truck, CDL drivers. And then these are all businesses that are being run. So we need corporate positions. We need customer service representatives. We need finance and accounting. We need managers both in the operations and in the business side of it. We need people that schedule and track and trace getting the product from the warehouse to the Targets or the Walmarts, you name it. So it's all of the above.
But that really sort of takes the mystery out of it. I was laughing earlier today when we were talking about doing this podcast. Oh, logistics, Amazon. It's like it's mystery, you know, and people get bent out of shape only because they don't understand what really is. It's creating it, storing it, moving it, and that's the bottom line.
Well, logistics have been around forever. It's getting it to market.
Right.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
We just put a name to it now, logistics.
Right.
Year and years ago, of course, but that's what it is.
Well, and the consumer is more demanding, right? So, you know, I wouldn't be able to buy a product online and have it on my doorstep tomorrow. That didn't used to be the case, right?
Oh, right.
So it's created a lot of game changing, so to speak, in the industry. Last mile, how do we get it from point A to point B and efficient? So there's a lot of technology. That's another aspect of a lot of what we look for in logistics is technology. You know, how someone might use Microsoft Word in the warehouse, we use a warehouse management system. So we need technology for that. We have transportation management systems. So IT is a huge aspect. And that kind of creates game changers in the logistics industry is technology and driving efficiencies because it's all about faster, cheaper, and accurate.
That's interesting because here in Columbus, we always talk about transportation being a huge, huge issue for people. So we've actually kind of got it under control for things, but now we just need to use those same principles and move our people around a little easier too. So that's sort of my soapbox of the day.
So you talked about so many different jobs available in this industry, and it's the same in any industry or company, and each require a set of specific skills and experience. But we often talk about transferable skills, hard or soft. Can you provide us with some tips on the types of skills or traits that are most important to your organization in the logistics field too?
Absolutely. Within FST specifically, we have core competencies or traits, and we first and foremost look for that. So we do have entry-level positions coming in, working in our warehouse floor, building. If you ever go to a Walmart and you see a cardboard display with product on it, you know, if you can imagine, those cardboard displays come flat and they need built and the product needs put on it and it needs shrink wrapped. That's a fairly walk-in entry-level position. So what we look for are people that have the attitude and drive and want to come in and learn and being a team player. So a good attitude, a work ethic, and willing to work hard and ask questions, that will get you in the door with an entry-level position. To move up into management, specifically within maybe the operations, that's going to require some experience, having been in logistics or distribution. However, outside of that, with accounting, finance, technology, customer service, those don't necessarily need logistics experience, but applicable experience. So I've been in customer service in a contact center before. I've been in finance and accounting outside of logistics. Those bring over a lot of transferable skills, and people that are open to learning and understanding the industry absolutely could come in and pick up those positions.
So let's take that then another step farther in terms of transferable skills, looking at those operational, the manufacturing or the warehousing area. Are there types of positions that someone could have had that they bring that experience in so that maybe they skip that bottom level and move a little higher?
Probably running a plant operations that way would potentially transfer over. Maybe not a direct lateral move because logistics can be very complicated and or different than manufacturing, which I'm sure is just as complicated. But coming in with leadership skills already and having run an operations, managed a P&L, hired, trained, developed, some of those would be transferable to bring you in maybe at a lead or supervisor level to then grow into that manager. How
many different levels? It sounds like there's just entry and management. Are there levels in between?
Yeah, there's absolutely. So there's entry level, there is specialty skills within operations, so driving a forklift, doing inventory control, which requires excellent math and organizational skills. There is shipping and receiving, where you're doing a lot of email and dialogue with the customer and the transportation provider coming and going. So there's a lot of different levels. And then you can move into a lead position, supervisor, manager, director, VP, so on and so forth.
But those types of working with clients and customers and doing quality control, I'm guessing that our mature job seekers have probably built those skills in other areas and could easily bring them into a logistics position.
Absolutely. And that's really just on the warehouse side, but transportation has a side to logistics as well. So, at FST, we have a transportation side of the business. So we have people that are scheduling drivers, tracking and tracing them. We have dispatchers that are talking with the CDLA drivers that are dispatching them, building their loads, making sure they get on time, handling any customer complaints, because if you miss a spot at Walmart, they might make you wait a day, right? And so making sure that you schedule it, it's like playing a giant game of Tetris, right? So people that are really critical problem solvers, those are really good transferable skills, all of that transportation side of it as well.
So dealing with food, is it a different timetable got to be there versus widgets?
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I think large companies like Amazon, or actually, let me back up, large companies like Walmart, they have a lot of demands on any consumer. It could be a Barbie doll widget. They expect it to be there on time as much as food. But within the food and grocery, there are a lot of additional codes. Our warehouses have to be up to code for food. We have to go on expiration date so that it gets out. It needs to be tracked really effectively in case there's a recall. They need to be able to trace it all the way back to where it's stored in the warehouse to quarantine it. So there's a lot of complexities to food grade, and that's why our trucks are also temperature controlled as well, so that when we're moving the product, it all stays obviously safe and healthy for everyone.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm guessing that food is complicated. And when you're talking about going to a Walmart or Kroger's or wherever, what people want to see, it's critical. It's not just the Barbie widget is important to the kid who wants the Barbie widget, but you have to make sure that the food is safe for somebody to eat.
Absolutely.
Health and safety.
And a lot of FST's companies that we work with are budding brands that, are, we have a company called Safe and Fair, and they build products that are safe and fair because their children had a lot of peanut allergies, and they're like, they go to school and they can't participate. And so these are, made in a fair way, and they're safe products for everyone to eat.
Well, often our Employment for Seniors clients will say, no one wants me, I'm too old. There are many assumptions made about older applicants, such as, the candidates are too old, they're overqualified, unable to keep up, and want a higher salary too. How does an older candidate address comments regarding their high skill level to show that they're truly interested in the job and the most qualified candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mature job seeker is highly qualified for any of the type of work in logistics. I was actually just talking with one of our top forklift operators who would be classified as a mature job seeker. And not only is he efficient and one of the fastest and most accurate in his position, but has great ideas and insight, and probably one of the strongest work ethics as well. I think, though, sometimes getting your foot in the door can be a challenge, especially if you're looking to make a career shift and you've had a wildly successful career in something else and you're looking for that step back. So logistics can offer that. It can offer really flexible work and part-time and different shifts, and some people might want that, but it could get deterred in looking at a resume. So I think if you're a job seeker that's looking for a step in a different direction and you're willing to do that and completely wanting to do that, it needs to almost be made known in the objective of your resume or in networking with someone that can have that dialogue on your behalf or with a cover letter.
Right. And one of the things that you just said that I was really glad to hear is there are part-time opportunities, because oftentimes a mature individual is not just looking for something different and new. They do want to step back from what they were doing before, and they're, moving towards that retirement opportunity, but still wanting to work and be engaged with a group of people.
Absolutely. We have that a lot, both in our CDL drivers and in our warehouse operations as well. Multiple, I want to stay local, I only want to drive part-time, or I want to just work a couple shifts or work just the weekends. Tons of flexibility there.
Wonderful. Okay. One of the other concerns that sometimes our clients will bring up and employers bring up to us is that somebody has gaps in their resume, and they could be completely legitimate gaps. Doing caregiving, there could have been an illness, and sometimes it's just finding a job, and it takes a while to do that. What if you had a candidate with a gap? How would you see them addressing that with you, and what would you suggest they talk about?
Right. The first thing I would suggest is addressing your gap in your resume. In my 15 years of looking at resumes, a lot of people try to hide their gaps, or it looks a little wonky on their resume, and there's been kind of bad reasons for that, and so it gives recruiters pause when they see gaps in their resume. What I would suggest on the resume is identify the gap. I spent from 2016 to 2018 being a caregiver. I spent 2019 to 2020 job searching, and have that kind of on there. And then when you get in that interview, you have to explain and kind of talk through it. I don't believe a lot of recruiters are looking for very personal reasons. Hey, I was a personal caregiver for a family, and that's really all you need to say.
Right.
If you're job searching, really kind of letting them know, hey, this is kind of what I was looking for. This is how I was doing my job search. This is how active I was on my job search, to show that they were actively participating in looking for employment and showing that they were taking that initiative.
During the recession, everybody had gaps. And so I don't know that recruiters were as worried at that point in time about figuring that out. But I've noticed recently that people are looking at that a little bit harder. Now, employers are really looking for great candidates.
Right.
So now actually is a good time to go ahead and deal with those gaps and move right back in.
I think a lot of companies are just looking for people eager to work, and sometimes a gap could be perceived as, I wasn't all that eager to work. And so that can be a little bit of a concern. Would this person start working and then decide it's not really for me? And so every company is looking for longevity, and so they're not necessarily willing to take a chance on somebody that just might want to try it out, but is committed and excited about it, and I want to work and I'm eager to work, versus I don't really need to work, but I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, no big deal. So companies are looking for an investment.
Right. Would there be possibilities where somebody wasn't really sure they wanted to work in logistics, but maybe there's like seasonal hiring or something along that line where they really could experiment?
Absolutely. At our organization, we don't have a lot of seasonality because everybody eats, hopefully every day. But in logistics here in Columbus, being retail, we have a huge Q4 surge in the logistics space. And lots of companies ramp up during that Q4, look for additional employment or additional workers to get the product out the door because of shopping for Christmas. Right.
So listeners, that's an opportunity. If you don't know about logistics and you're not really sure if you want to do it, there are some possibilities. And actually, we're doing this podcast in the month of April, almost May, but Q4 hiring will actually start probably mid-late summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Most companies start it earlier and earlier because there's not enough employees to get the product out the door. So you'll start to see a lot of advertisements late July, early August, and they will offer sign-on bonus and attendance bonuses and raffles and drawings and free food trucks. I mean, you name it. Companies try everything.
Because you're looking at going back to school, and then Halloween comes, and Thanksgiving, and the end of the year holidays, and it's constant.
And there's training involved too. So companies want to have their employees stable and trained before people start shopping for the holidays. Good that's got to be well before that. What is it? Black Friday.
Right. Good point. Okay.
Are you using LinkedIn or any other social media to source candidates? And if you are, how can a candidate make it work for them?
I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. I ping people every day until LinkedIn tells me I've pinged too many people, and then I wait till the next month, and then I start it all over again. Huge fan of LinkedIn. I think the more robust you can make your LinkedIn profile, the better, because oftentimes a lot of really great employees are currently working. So you want to find those employees, and if you see that they only have 2 people that they're connected to, that means I could ping them all day long, but they clearly don't check it. They don't get their notifications. They'll never hear from me. So being active on LinkedIn, having a lot of followers to show that I'm on it, posting or reposting people's content. I have personally found when you do pictures and show a bit of a personal side, keeping it professional, you get a lot of people that view that. Like, hey, I'm working today or going on a job interview today. Things like that really get people kind of responding and liking and sharing it. And then really outline your experience. So don't just say, hey, I work at FST and this is my title. What is FST about, and what do I specifically do at FST?
Right.
Because when I search for people I'll search for sales and logistics and Columbus, Ohio. And that's what I'll look for. And those people will pop up that have that in their resume. So keywords of what you're looking to get into, even if you don't have the experience, if you put, interested in logistics, distribution, warehouse, transportation, if you have the keywords in there, when I run that Boolean search, so to speak, it will pop up and that resume or that LinkedIn profile will pop up.
Okay. So the steps really: create the profile, make sure it's complete, be active, be appropriate on LinkedIn or any of your social media. I could not believe the number of holiday wishes we got in the last few weeks on LinkedIn. I would expect to see that on Facebook, not on LinkedIn. So it is work-related information, so just be aware of that.
Yeah, I always keep LinkedIn very work-related, nothing personal.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is if you're interested in a specific company, follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on Facebook, comment on what they say and what they do. You can engage in a lot of dialogue, especially on Facebook. Our driver recruiter will do testimonials of drivers that will say, hey, this is why I like working here. They'll post that video.
Sure.
And he'll pay attention to people that comment on it, ask questions on it, share it. And you can create a lot of dialogue directly with a recruiter at a company if you're engaging on their corporate page.
Oh, those are phenomenal ideas. How many times we get phone calls that say, I don't know who to address my cover letter to, and that would be a way to do it. The other thing, too, is if you're trying to enter into dialogue with a company and you can't find anybody and they're not coming back at you, figure out who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Absolutely.
So oftentimes I'll tell clients, link with me. I know so-and-so at this company, and we'll get you connected that way. So don't be afraid to use the contacts that you have.
Absolutely. Okay. And you can even find people, if you're looking to get into logistics and you like their page and you're looking at them on LinkedIn, connect with other people that work there. And when somebody links back in with you, thank you so much for connecting. I'm really interested in learning more about your organization or getting introduced. Is there somebody I can send my resume to? Every company is looking for excellent employees. So most people would be happy to help.
That kind of leads to one of our earlier questions about transferable skills. One of the misassumptions from employers is that an older adult doesn't know technology. Now, I always say, if you can do Facebook, you can do LinkedIn. It's not complicated. It can be time-consuming, particularly at the beginning, but trying it out. And if you need some help, if you're here in Central Ohio, you can contact us, and we have workshops on using LinkedIn in your job search. But I think that folks don't realize the value of using social media and really creating networking contacts. Now, there's a whole lot more to networking, and we have a podcast on networking to get some information about doing that. But you really want to use that as reaching out into your, yes, there are a lot of jobs open, but let's talk about getting a job with a company that's really great, that you see that on those LinkedIn notes.
Yeah, and it can be as little as 10 minutes a day, and you just get yourself disciplined, because the more you practice with it, the better you become at it. So you don't have to put your own context or push it out right away, but just say 10 minutes, I'm going to read a few people's things, I'm going to like that, I'm going to share that. You do that 10 minutes a day, and in a month you're commenting, you're dialoguing with people, you're maybe putting, a little bit of your own content out there, and you will find people will link in with you once you get more active in it. And it really only takes 10 minutes a day.
Wonderful. That's great information. Thank you. We're going to go to my next question is another step in the job search process. So finding your networking contacts, using social media. So you actually got your foot in the door. Now, how do I interview? And again, mature job seekers may not have had to look for a job for literally decades and haven't had to be in an interviewing process. So do you have suggestions on what are the critical issues in making sure people say their work story, not their life story, in an interview?
Advice I like to give anybody interviewing is dress the part, bring copies of your resume, bring something to take notes, and have prepared written questions, and also research, right? When you're talking about yourself, what I give the exercise to people is I say, look at your resume, and a lot of people just write, I'm the VP of talent, so what I do is hire people, right? That's kind of obvious, right? That's my job title. Instead, I would say I was a critical I made 3 critical placements that drove company revenue 20%. That shows I'm good at my job, not what I do. So I would suggest think about every job you had. What are the 3 biggest impacts you made? And have those as bullet points. Ideally, if you can quantify them with numbers. But when you get in front of the interview, that's what you talk about.
Right.
I was exceptional at my job, not this is what I did at my job, but I was exceptional at it. And I think that really kind of helps tell the story about why you were successful, and it will help to draw that transferable skills. I think the other component of it is if you do your research, not just on the company, I know FST Logistics, but understand where they fit in the market and in the space, because then you'll know what critical problems we're trying to solve as an organization. And then when you're talking about the things you did to excel, even if it wasn't in logistics, but you can show, wow, I really drove efficiencies. I really drove process improvements. I was able to document that. As a recruiter, I'm going to say, hey, that's something we need to work on. Yeah, you did it somewhere else, but clearly you know how to do it. Right. And it helps draw that connection. And you can quickly figure out what problems a company's trying to solve by researching, hey, FST is in logistics, but they're 3PL within the food industry. Okay, food industry logistics. What challenges do they have? What trends do they have? Really helps drive the dialogue. So if you don't have exact experience, you can kind of parlay it over and talk the talk and show, I get your problems and I can solve them, and here's how.
Exactly. And oftentimes clients get upset because everybody gives them a lot of different information about their resume. My feeling is everybody is going to give you a lot of different ideas, and those are good. It always has to be something you're comfortable with because you are defending your resume.
Right.
But the more feedback you get, the more you can really think about, what did I accomplish? What were my successes?
Yeah.
What value did I bring to previous employers? What value am I going to bring to this new employer? It then negates the concern over age.
Right.
Age is not the issue. You've been powerful in other jobs. You can be powerful in a job in the future, but you have to be able to communicate that well. And a good resume will help you do that.
Absolutely. And I think really the first thing to understand is nobody actually reads a resume. Nobody reads it word for word, right? They look at the resume and they scan it, and they're looking for something very specific. They're looking for numbers. They're looking for success. They're looking for metrics. They're looking for tangible or transferable experience.
Right.
So you may have to have 5+ resumes. You might have to have one focused on customer service and one focused on accounting and one focused on that, because the right person looking at it is looking for something very, very specific.
And the other thing, too, is even if somebody's reading it, there's no guarantee the person reading it even understands what you were doing. And to be able to see how it transfers or translates into a new job. So
Absolutely.
Great.
So what are you saying the biggest mistakes, the significant mistakes made by candidates on the online application process?
Gosh, the online application process can certainly be a black hole. And that's a real challenge. I think filling it out completely, a lot of times it shows effort, and some application processes are annoyingly cumbersome.
Daunting.
So daunting. And you can tell when people get frustrated, please see attached, I scanned that, or, not going to respond. And so that can be an indication of you're not all that interested. Yes, I'm making you jump through hoops. Sometimes companies want to see you jump through hoops. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I have seen that as somewhat of a tactic. And when people write, I've sent you my resume and I'm not going to fill out employment experience and employment history because my resume's on there and it didn't populate over, that can be a negative review.
Okay.
For the candidate.
I've had other employers say the worst thing that happens is that somebody gets halfway through and they stop and the employer doesn't know why. They don't know if they had trouble with the system.
Right.
Maybe they lost their electricity and there's no way to get back with that individual. And so if a client has a problem with the process, they should call the company.
Absolutely.
Because then the company itself can figure out if there's something going on. Okay, good. All right. Okay, Jill, we're going to wrap it up, but if you had one tip to tell our mature job seekers in terms of their search in general and search within logistics, what would you think?
I think the best thing to do, if you look for logistics openings, you start to get a semblance of what you might be interested in, and then kind of build that resume towards that. I think the biggest thing in logistics is booming. People are hiring. They're looking for a stronger work ethic and a desire to succeed. And oftentimes, the unmature candidate or employer lacks that a little bit. And one of the things that we have found with our mature job seekers that work in our company are they're leaders, they're confident, they have a fantastic work ethic, and they are also not afraid to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Have we thought about a different way and a better way versus being kind of an order taker? And we're looking for people that are problem solvers and solution seekers. So I think coming to the table with, hey, I'm a hard worker, I have a great work ethic, I can show you stability on my resume all day long. Let me show you what I can do for your organization. A lot of logistics, there's some labor intensity to it, but many of our mature job seekers, they can kind of wipe the floor with other people. And I've worked the warehouse floor before, and after one shift, my feet were killing me. And some of these other employers are laughing at me like, man, go back to your desk job, Jill.
Exactly. So really, one of the first things for our listeners to think about is don't be afraid because you hear the term logistics.
Right.
This isn't magic. This is the same stuff that we've been doing for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's moving stuff from creation to market.
Yep.
That's what it amounts to.
Exactly.
So don't be afraid if you hear that the company is a logistics company. Realize that you got great skills. You just need to understand how to communicate that with an employer.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks.
And thanks for being willing to be our experiment here and start kicking off our series of Do I Want to Work In? And so we're really thankful for you to join us today. So thanks again. And listeners, if you have questions about employment for seniors, we serve those 50 and over in Central Ohio, which is Franklin County and the surrounding counties. It's a free service, so just give us a call and make an appointment. Come in and see us, 614-863-1219. If you have questions, you want to take a look at our website. It's employseniors.org. Just give us a call. We'd be glad to talk to you.